My mother-in-law was in the hospital, but I calmly took my daughter on vacation. My husband yelled, "Are you even human?" I threw a stack of documents at him and replied, "I'm your wife, not your live-in maid." Early September in Chicago, a dreary drizzle enveloped the Lincoln Park neighborhood. Inside our old apartment on the 6th floor, the scent of generic bleach and stale coffee seemed to merge. My name is Eleanor Vance, 36 years old, once a book editor. Outsiders would say I was lucky. Married to a manager, living in a nice apartment. But what looked like a gilded cage from the outside felt bone-chillingly cold on the inside. My husband, Donovan Hayes, 39, was a communications manager at a real estate firm. His salary was over $20,000 a month, a fact he loved to boast about to his drinking buddies. Yet, on the 5th of every month, Donovan would place exactly $1,500 on the kitchen counter. "Here, this is for the month's expenses," he'd say. "Manage it well, and don't complain that it's not enough. The rest of my paycheck is tied up in stock investments and my retirement fund. Money doesn't grow on trees." $1,500 for 3 adults and 1 small child. Groceries, milk, Maya's preschool tuition, electricity, and water. I had to account for every last cent. One day, running late from the grocery store, all I dared to buy were the last few chicken pieces on the shelf and a box of generic mac and cheese. With a little butter, it was still enough for one meal. My mother-in-law, Lorraine, had been a widow for years and had lived with us ever since I gave birth to Maya. She claimed her arthritis and grief made living alone impossible, though she seemed perfectly energetic when ordering me around. In front of the neighbors, she was sweet as pie. But the moment the door closed, her voice would sharpen. "Home all day, and all you can put on the table is canned soup and stale bread?" Donovan works his fingers to the bone. How is he supposed to excel if this is what he eats? The ironic part was that this was the kind of food Donovan used to praise, saying it reminded him of his mother's cooking. But when his mother sneered, he just silently washed his hands, not defending me in the slightest. Maya, only 6 years old, was already adept at reading the adults' faces. Seeing her grandmother's scowl, she would quietly dip her plain bread into her soup, not daring to ask for another bite. One night, Maya had a fever, and my wallet was empty. I called Donovan. He answered amidst the clinking of glasses. "The kid has a fever? Take her to a doctor." "Why are you calling me?" "I'm out of money for medicine, Don." "You're home all day, how do you burn through money so fast? Figure it out yourself." I carried Maya, borrowed $200 from our neighbor, Brenda Gable. That night was our 10th wedding anniversary. I tried to calm myself, thinking that disagreements were normal in a marriage. I bought ribs, made honey-glazed ribs and a plate of mini quiches, and placed a vase of yellow chrysanthemums in the living room. I hoped Donovan would see it and remember his promise from long ago that no matter how hard things got, he would never make me sad. At 9 p.m., the food was cold. At 10 p.m., Maya fell asleep on the sofa. At 11:30 p.m., the door opened. Donovan stumbled in, his shirt wrinkled. He reeked of alcohol and an unfamiliar woman's perfume. I stood up. "Don, you're home. Let me heat up the food." "I made your favorite ribs today." Before I could finish, Donovan violently swiped the dining table. Plates shattered everywhere. The rib sauce splattered onto my skirt. A piece of glass cut the back of my foot. It stung. Lorraine emerged from her room without even asking if I was hurt. She just stared at the pile of food. Oh, for heaven's sake, what a waste of food. People who don't earn money truly don't understand sacrifice. Donovan pulled a pharmacy receipt from his wallet and threw it on the table. "Mom's herbal supplements for the month came to $800. You handle it. Don't wait for me for everything." I fell silent. "Don, you only give me $1,500. Maya's school, her milk, and our food barely fit into that. Where am I supposed to get $800? Donovan laughed cynically. "Well, figure it out. You used to be an editor, or have you been at home so long you've forgotten how to write? If you're not going to be useful, at least know your place." Maya cried, clutching her teddy bear, and ran to hold onto my skirt. "Daddy, don't yell at Mommy anymore. I'm scared." I knelt and hugged my daughter. Her cheeks were hot, her small hands trembling. At that moment, Lorraine's muttering, the smell of alcohol on Donovan, and the cut on my foot all faded away. There was only one sentence in my head. 10 years of being a wife was enough. I had stayed because I thought a child needed a complete family, with a father and a mother. I always told myself to give in for the sake of peace. But it turned out that some sacrifices don't bring peace to a household. They just teach others to walk all over you. That night, after Maya was asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen. Outside the glass window, the rain was still falling. The cut on my foot had stopped bleeding, but inside my heart, something had just snapped. I whispered to myself, slowly but with each word clear. Eleanor, you have to get a divorce. But I knew if I just left with Maya, I would be a woman with nothing, letting them laugh at me. I had already lost 10 years. I couldn't lose Maya's future. I turned off the kitchen light. In the darkness, for the first time in years, I no longer felt weak. I just felt awake. The next morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. I had barely slept, but my head felt incredibly clear. The cut on my foot stung every time I stepped on the cold tile. In the kitchen, the lingering smell of last night's rib sauce still hung in the air. Donovan came out of the bedroom, his shirt already neatly ironed, his hair styled with gel, as if the man who had overturned the dining table last night was a different person. He glanced at me with a commanding tone. "Make me some coffee. I have an early meeting." I stared at him for a few seconds. "The water heater is over there. The coffee is in the jar. Make it yourself." Donovan's hand, which was adjusting his watch, froze. Lorraine immediately appeared from her room like a bolt of lightning. "What kind of daughter-in-law is this? Your husband asks for coffee, and you pull a long face. Looking for a fight first thing in the morning?" I didn't answer, just bent down to gather the remaining broken pieces of the plates from under the table. I had cried enough yesterday. This morning, tears felt too expensive. Donovan frowned, but perhaps because he was afraid of being late for his meeting, he just said, "Fix your attitude. A woman at home who's always wound up tight like a guitar string. Who can stand that?" I wanted to laugh. Someone sets a house on fire, and then blames the smoke for making their eyes sting. It was true. There were things in this world that, if said aloud, became absurdly funny. After dropping Maya off at school, I didn't go straight home. I took an Uber to a small cafe in Wicker Park. My lawyer, Chloe Jenkins, was already waiting for me in a corner booth. Chloe had been my college friend. We were in the literature club together before she switched her major to law. Seeing me, her gaze immediately fell on the bandage on my foot. Her face hardened. Donovan did that. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat, but I forced myself to talk. I told her about the $1,500 a month, about Lorraine's jibes, about Maya's fever and having to borrow money, about the anniversary dinner being overturned. Chloe listened intently without interrupting. After I finished, she pushed a cup of ginger tea toward me. "Eleanor, if you want a divorce, you can get one. But if you want to leave without being destroyed by them, you need proof. Documents. Don't be rash." I asked quietly, "I haven't worked formally in years. Will the court give me custody of Maya?" Chloe looked me straight in the eye. "Your work as a homemaker, raising a child and managing a family, is recognized by law. But to get custody, you have to prove that you are capable of earning an income, have a safe place to live, and that the other party's behavior creates an unhealthy environment for the child. Text messages, phone recordings, proof of child school payments, old freelance contracts save everything." I bit my lip. "About Donovan's money. I know he makes a lot, but he never shows me his accounts." "Don't do anything illegal," Chloe said quickly. "We are seeking justice, so our evidence must be clean. Document anything you see at home that you can access reasonably. After we file, I will ask the court to verify his assets, income, and cash flow. Slow and steady. Don't turn yourself into a destructive storm." That sentence woke me up. All this time I thought that to be free, I just had to run away with Maya. But I realized that running without a plan, without documents, without money, was just moving from one form of suffering to another. That afternoon when I got home, Lorraine was watching a daytime talk show, her feet propped up on the coffee table, her hands busy flipping through a lifestyle magazine. Seeing me walk in, she lifted her chin. "Where's lunch? Or have you just been out gossiping all morning? Hurry up and cook. There has to be some ground beef, not just cheap pasta and canned beans every day. Having a daughter-in-law at home is like feeding an extra mouth." I changed my sandals and went straight to the kitchen. If this were any other day, I would have apologized in a small voice. Today, I just washed my hands and started cooking rice without saying a word. Lorraine seemed annoyed that her barbs were no longer effective. In the afternoon, while Lorraine was napping, I went into my room and locked the door. At the bottom of the wardrobe, behind a pile of old blankets, I pulled out a brown cloth bag. Inside was a savings passbook with my name on it, showing a balance of $30,000. I gently stroked the cover. Every dollar in it was the result of my late nights working on translation manuscripts after the rest of the house was asleep. Sometimes, while typing, Maya would cough in her room. I'd run in, pat her back, then return to the kitchen, put on my earphones, and continue working. Once, Lorraine passed by and saw the light was still on. She grumbled, "Up all night playing on the computer. You think electricity is free in this house?" I just smiled. No one knew. With every keystroke, I was building an escape route for myself and my daughter. I photographed Maya's birth certificate, my ID, the savings book, and some old freelance contracts from my email. Each photo was saved in a special folder with an innocuous name, Maya's School Projects. How bitter it was that a woman had to hide her own path to freedom. Just before 5 p.m., my phone rang. Lorraine's name appeared on the screen. The moment I answered, her voice was mixed with a highly dramatic groan. "Eleanor, where are you?" I fell, I broke my leg. It hurts so much. Oh God. I stood still in the middle of the room. "Where did you fall, Lorraine?" "Where doesn't matter. I'm in the orthopedics department at the hospital now. Hurry up, bring me some decent food, a change of clothes, and come here to take care of me. Donovan is out earning money. You're at home. You should know your duty to care for your mother-in-law." I looked out at the balcony. Just that morning, I had seen her with my own eyes in her purple workout clothes in the complex's garden, laughing heartily with the other women. I lowered my voice. "Okay, Lorraine, you just rest. I'll get things ready." After hanging up, I didn't run to the kitchen as usual. I opened my contacts and searched for the hospital she had just mentioned. For the first time in my life as a daughter-in-law, I didn't immediately believe my mother-in-law's groans. I trusted what my own eyes had seen. I dialed the number of the hospital Lorraine had mentioned. On the other end, a female operator's voice was soft but clear. "Good afternoon. Can I help you with the patient's full name and year of birth, ma'am?" A patient by the name of Lorraine Hayes, born in 1960. She said she broke her leg and is now in the orthopedics department. I heard the sound of a keyboard clicking. My heart beat a little faster, not from anxiety, but from a strange premonition creeping up my spine. "I'm sorry, ma'am. There is no patient by the name of Lorraine Hayes admitted today. Perhaps you could double-check. It might be the wrong hospital." I closed my eyes for a moment. "All right, thank you." After hanging up, I stood in the living room, staring at the wicker chair where Lorraine usually sat watching her soap operas. On the coffee table, the lifestyle magazine she was reading that afternoon was still left open. Someone who supposedly broke her leg and was in the hospital, yet the house was so quiet, as if there was no emergency at all. Sometimes, life's deceptions don't need to be unraveled. The lies expose themselves. My phone vibrated again. This time it was a text from Brenda, my neighbor. "Eleanor, honey, I wanted to ask, what's this about your mother-in-law saying she broke her leg? I saw her this morning in her purple workout clothes in the garden, walking perfectly straight. I saw her in the elevator this afternoon carrying a bag of groceries. Be careful, dear." I read the message over and over. A lump formed in my throat. It wasn't because I was surprised Lorraine had lied. I just couldn't believe she would stage a broken leg just to force me to come home and take care of her. To prove that the daughter-in-law in this house was not allowed to breathe according to her own will. I called Brenda back. "Brenda, thank you so much. But please, don't tell anyone you told me this." Brenda sighed. "I know every family has its own business. But sometimes I can't bear to see you being yelled at in the hallway." As one woman to another, I just want to say, patience has its limits, dear. If you're too patient, people will think you don't have a backbone. That sentence made my eyes sting. An outsider could see my suffering, but the person who slept in the same bed with me considered it my duty. I opened the closet, took out a few sets of clothes for myself and Maya, important documents, and Maya's fever medicine, then packed everything into a dark blue suitcase. My hands were trembling, but every movement was swift. It was no longer the panicked rush to serve someone, but the speed of someone saving herself. At 3 p.m., I picked Maya up early from school. She was coloring a picture of a dolphin. Seeing me at the classroom door, Maya's eyes widened. "Mommy, it's not time for our afternoon snack yet." I squatted down, fixing the barrette in her hair. "Today, Mommy is giving you a day off. We're going to the beach." "To the beach for real, Mommy?" Her eyes sparkled, then dimmed. "Do we have to ask Daddy first, Mommy?" That question was like a small thorn piercing my heart. A 6-year-old child was already conditioned to think that even having fun required permission from the angry adult at home. I smiled, trying to speak as gently as possible. "Mommy is Maya's mother. I'll be responsible. We're going for a few days so you can see the ocean. After that, Mommy will take care of the grown-up stuff. Maya hugged her drawing of the dolphin. Will Grandma be mad at you? I picked her up and kissed her cheek. If anyone gets mad at Mommy, you just focus on having fun. Mommy will handle it. Though I said that, I knew in my heart that from this moment on, I didn't want to hear their scolding anymore. That afternoon, Chicago was showered with a light rain. The taxi drove past rows of wet trees, navigating the streets crowded with rush-hour traffic. I sat in the back, holding Maya, watching my phone screen light up continuously. A call from Donovan once, twice, then Lorraine, then Donovan again. I left it on silent mode. There are phone calls whose purpose isn't to ask how you are, but to tighten the rope around your neck. Today, I chose not to offer my neck anymore. Maya sat by the window, asking cheerfully, "Is the airplane going to fly higher than the clouds, Mommy?" "Yes, honey." "Is the ocean bigger than Millennium Park, Mommy?" "Much, much bigger." "At the ocean, will anyone yell at Mommy?" I quickly turned my face away. Outside the car window, the raindrops blurred into long streaks. No. At the ocean, only the waves get angry. But angry waves just sound exciting. Maya let out a crisp laugh. It had been so long since I'd heard her laugh with such clarity. A late-night flight took us to Clearwater, Florida. As the plane landed, Maya pressed her face against the window, cheering at the sight of the twinkling lights below. I held her hand, telling myself that I wasn't running away. I was simply stepping out of a house that had made me wither day by day. Our small hotel was located near the main strip. The room wasn't luxurious, but it was clean, with a window that offered a slanted view of the ocean. The salty breeze blew in, making the white curtains sway. I took Maya to eat chicken noodle soup at a small street-side diner. A hot bowl of soup with a fragrant, clear broth. Maya ate almost all of it, sweat beading on her forehead, her mouth stretched in a wide smile. "This is better than Grandma's cooking." "Oh, really?" I teased. Maya tilted her head, thinking seriously. "It's better because Grandma isn't here to yell at you." I paused, then laughed. Children don't know how to philosophize, but their words are always spot on. That evening, I bought Maya a small beach hat with a blue ribbon. She wore it, twirling in front of the mirror and praising herself. "Do I look like a tourist yet, Mommy?" "You certainly do. A limited edition little tourist." She laughed until she rolled onto the bed. I tucked her in and sat beside her, watching her small face slowly drift off to sleep. For the first time in months, this room had no sound of Lorraine coughing and calling me to make tea. No sound of Donovan throwing his keys on the table. No feeling that I had to hold my breath just to live. It was almost 11 p.m. when my phone lit up again. There were 16 missed calls from Donovan, 7 from Lorraine. I stared at it for a moment, then turned my phone face down. I would surely have to answer it tomorrow morning. But tonight, I wanted to protect my daughter's peaceful sleep. Tonight, I wanted to hear the sound of the waves, not the sound of accusations from my husband's family. I leaned against the headboard. Outside, the waves of the Gulf crashed in a steady rhythm. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again. The 17th call from Donovan appeared on the screen. Its light felt cold, like a declaration of war. I stared at the phone screen glowing in the dark. The 17th call from Donovan. The name itself was usually enough to make my heart race, making me as nervous as a student called to the front of the class. But that night, in a small hotel room near a beach in Florida, next to a soundly sleeping Maya, I felt incredibly calm. I got up, closed the sliding glass door to the balcony just enough so the sound of the waves could still drift in, and then pressed the answer button. Before I could even open my mouth, Donovan was already shouting, "Where are you? You're still my wife, aren't you? Huh? My mother broke her leg and is in the hospital, and you take our daughter on vacation? What kind of daughter-in-law are you?" I looked outside. The night sea was pitch black. In the distance, a few fishing boats twinkled like fireflies. I took a deep breath and answered softly, "Dawn, have you actually seen your mother in the hospital yourself?" There was a brief silence on the other end. "What did you just ask?" I asked. "Have you seen the admission papers, the x-ray results, or has a doctor confirmed that your mother's leg is broken?" Donovan was silent for a few seconds, then his voice rose again. "My mother is in that much pain. What more proof do I need? Don't start arguing. I'm telling you, bring Maya back to Chicago tonight." I let out a very quiet laugh. Not a happy laugh, but the laugh of someone who has seen through a tired, old drama. "Dawn, getting from Florida to Chicago isn't the same as going from the living room to the corner store. You want me back tonight? Have you chartered a private jet?" "You're still joking?" My mother is sick. If your mother is truly sick, then you're her son. Go home and take care of her. You have hands, you have feet, you have money, you have a car. Or do you only have a mouth to order your wife around? I could hear Donovan's heavy breathing. I could picture his face, surely red, his eyes bulging with disbelief that the wife who usually bowed her head now dared to counter his every sentence. You've got a lot of nerve, haven't you? You've been living off me for years. Now my mother needs care, and you run away? You think you can just run off with my child like that? I could call the police. You've kidnapped our daughter. I glanced over at Maya. She turned in her sleep, hugging the new dolphin plushie we bought at a night market. Her lips were in a pout, as if she were dreaming of the ocean. The anger inside me peaked, but it didn't make me lose control. It only made my voice colder. Maya is my daughter. My name is on her birth certificate. I took her on a few days' vacation with my own money. What are you going to report to the police, Don? That your wife dared to take her daughter to eat soup and see the ocean? Your money? Donovan sneered. Where did you get money? Did you steal it from the household allowance I give you and squirrel it away? That $1,500 I give you every month isn't for you to squander. I closed my eyes. $1,500. That number was like a thorn that had been lodged in me for years. I used to be ashamed to receive it. I was afraid to say it wasn't enough, that he would berate me for being unable to manage finances. But now, thinking about it, the shame wasn't that I didn't earn much, but that a husband with a $20,000 monthly salary let his wife and child live hand to mouth. Listen carefully, Don, I said. With that $1,500 from you, I managed the food for the entire house. Maya's school fees, her milk, her medicine, the electricity, the water, the salt, everything. There were months when I had to buy wilted vegetables. But you still came home to a warm meal and a clean shirt. Is that what you call providing for your wife? You're at home, you have to be frugal. I was frugal to the point that I couldn't even buy Maya new clothes when hers became too small. I was frugal to the point that I had to measure out every spoonful of her milk. Meanwhile, you can spend half of the monthly household budget on one night out drinking with your friends. Men make houses, women make homes. Men make houses, women make homes. But you gave me a few broken bricks and told me to build a palace. Silence on the other end. For the first time, I could hear the defeat in Donovan's breath. Then he growled. You've gotten very clever now, haven't you? Who's been teaching you to talk like this? It's that lawyer, Chloe, isn't it? I suspected you'd been seeing her. I didn't deny it. That's right. I went to see Chloe because I needed to know what rights a wife has after being treated like an unpaid personal assistant for 10 years. Don't you dare use the law to scare me. This is my house, this is my money, you want to leave? Fine. But Maya comes back with me. Hearing Maya's name, my hand gripped the balcony railing. The sea breeze blew against my face, tasting of salt. Say that again, Don. You want to take Maya for what? So your mother has someone else to order around when she's older? Or to prove that you've won against me? Maya is a Hayes. She's a grandchild in this family. She is also a little girl who cried and trembled when you overturned the dining table in front of her. She is a human being, not a trophy for the Hayes family that you can show off. Donovan screamed. Shut up! No, I replied. I've been quiet for 10 years. That's long enough. As the words came out, I was surprised myself. It turned out there were so many things buried inside me. It only took one small crack for it all to flood out. Donovan was breathless. Fine. If you're so tough, then don't ever come back. Without me, let's see how many days you and your daughter can survive. I looked at the suitcase in the corner of the room, at Maya's little sandals. These hands of mine had washed dishes until they were chapped, had held a feverish child, had typed manuscripts until 3 in the morning. My hands weren't smooth, they weren't soft, but they were never useless. How we'll live? That's our business. At least starting today, we'll live in a place where no one gets yelled at for eating an extra piece of fish. Donovan laughed humorlessly. You think you're so strong. I'm not strong. I just refuse to be weak because of you anymore. After saying that, I hung up the phone. My finger trembled slightly, but my heart felt incredibly light. I opened the voice recorder app and checked again. Every threat, every insult from Donovan was neatly saved on my phone. Not to show off a victory, but so that later, if needed, I would have proof that what I experienced wasn't just my imagination. I went back into the room. Maya was awake, sitting up and hugging the blanket, looking at me with sleepy eyes. Mommy, was Daddy mad? I sat on the edge of the bed, stroking her hair. Daddy is angry. Because sometimes grown-ups don't know how to talk nicely. Is he going to make us go home? No one is allowed to force us as if we're their property. Maya was quiet for a moment, then she hugged me. Then tomorrow, can you take me to the beach to build another sandcastle? I held her tightly. Yes, sweetheart. Tomorrow we'll build a really big one. Just then, my phone vibrated with a new message from Brenda. Honey, look at this and stay calm. Below it was a video, about 20 seconds long. I stared at the screen. Suddenly, the sound of the waves outside seemed to vanish. My gut told me that Lorraine's broken leg was finally about to stand on its own 2 feet. I clicked on the video Brenda sent. The image was a bit shaky, probably filmed secretly through a crack in a door or from down the hall. My living room appeared dimly lit. Then Lorraine appeared. No wheelchair, no cane, and definitely no broken leg. She was standing in the middle of the living room, one hand on her hip, the other unwrapping the white bandage from her calf. Her mouth was still grumbling as usual. Even after I faked being this sick, she still won't come home. That girl is starting to stand up to Donovan. Before, I'd just cough a little, and she'd come running. Now she dares to take the kid to the beach. In the video, Donovan paced back and forth, his voice irritated. Just stop it, Mom. What if she finds out? I've been calling her, and she won't pick up. If she's been listening to that lawyer Chloe, we could be in trouble. Lorraine threw the roll of bandages onto the sofa. What lawyer? A woman who leaves her husband can only go back to her parents' house and live off them. Just threaten to take the kid, she'll be scared straight. The video ended there. I sat frozen on the edge of the bed, the phone in my hand feeling cold. Outside, the ocean still roared, but inside my heart, it felt as if someone had just pulled back the final curtain. I had suspected, I had prepared myself, but hearing directly from Lorraine's mouth that I used to come running, my heart still ached. It turned out that for all those years I took care of her backaches, her headaches, her sleepless nights, in her eyes. It wasn't the devotion of a daughter-in-law, it was just a habit of being commanded. I replied to Brenda's message. Thank you so much, Brenda. Please keep the original video. I might need it later. Brenda replied quickly. I understand. You stay calm. Do what's right. Don't let them keep bullying you. Before I could put my phone down, a new iMessage notification popped up from Lorraine. A photo appeared, followed by a voice message nearly a minute long. In the photo, a leg wrapped in a white bandage from knee to ankle was propped up on a pillow. Next to it was a glass of water, a bottle of ointment, and a small towel. It looked utterly pathetic, exactly like a sick, elderly person waiting for the attention of their child and grandchild. But I zoomed in on the photo. My eyes stopped on the dark brown tiles under the bed. Those were the tiles in Lorraine's bedroom in my house, not hospital tiles. In the corner of the photo, a part of the wooden nightstand with her tacky porcelain angel figurine that I dusted every morning was visible. I played her voice message. Eleanor, it's me. I know I was emotional yesterday, I spoke harshly, but my leg really hurts, dear. I couldn't sleep all night. Donovan is a man. He's so clumsy. He even spills milk when he tries to make it. It's okay if you're mad at me. But we've lived together for so many years. Come home and take care of me for a few days, please. Her voice was soft and weak. Each word was spoken slowly, like a soap opera actress in her saddest scene. If this were me a few days ago, my heart would have melted. I would have felt guilty, blamed myself, and packed my bags to go home. But now, after seeing that video, every one of her groans sounded like nothing more than a knife scraping against glass. I pressed the video call button. The phone rang for a long time, until the 6th ring before it was answered. The screen was dark, the camera covered. Only her weak voice came through. Eleanor? Yes, dear, I'm in so much pain. I don't feel like being on camera. Please come home, dear. I kept my voice light. What room number are you in, Lorraine? At which hospital? In the ER. Where else? But the ER of which hospital? Yesterday you said the orthopedics department. I called there, and they said there was no one with your name. There was a very brief silence on the other end, but it was long enough for me to hear her sharp intake of breath. Oh, I'm home now. The hospital was so crowded, suffocating. The doctor said it was fine to recover at home. A broken leg. And you're discharged that quickly? What was the doctor's name? Do you remember? Oh, it hurts so much. How can I remember a doctor's name? You ask so many questions. I'm the one who gave birth to your husband. If I say I'm in pain, you have to believe me. I glanced at the sleeping Maya, and then back at the black screen. Yes, if you were really in pain, I would believe you. But, Lorraine, The tiles in the photo you sent are the tiles from your bedroom at home, not a hospital. And Brenda just sent me a video of you unwrapping the bandage yourself, walking around perfectly healthy. You even said I was starting to stand up to you. There was a loud crash from the other end, like a glass being knocked over. You had someone spy on your own mother-in-law? I smiled humorlessly. No one had to. It's just that some people can't bear to see a woman be constantly oppressed by her husband's entire family. Instantly, Lorraine's voice changed completely. The weak tone was gone. You ungrateful brat. This family has fed you for years. Now your mother-in-law is sick, and you investigate her? What kind of daughter-in-law are you? If Donovan had any sense, he would have kicked you to the curb and sent you packing long ago. Every word was sharp as a thorn, but this time, I didn't feel pierced. I just felt tired. Tired of having once considered those words as my own punishment. I spoke slowly. Lorraine, from this day forward, I will no longer play the part of the foolish daughter-in-law. You don't have a broken leg, you're not in the hospital, and I have no obligation to abandon my child to serve a charade. You dare call me Lorraine? Yes. When you treat me like a stranger, then I will call you by a name that reflects our distance. She snorted, probably trembling with so much anger she couldn't speak. You think having that little video makes you so powerful? Don't forget, Maya has Hayes blood. I'll just tell Donovan. He'll take that child from you until you have nothing left. I gripped my phone. Her name is Maya, not that child. She is indeed your granddaughter, but first and foremost, she is my daughter. And please remember this, a small child is not a whip for adults to beat her mother with. Lorraine spewed a torrent of curses, but I wasn't listening anymore. I ended the call. The room returned to silence, with only the sound of the AC and Maya's steady breathing. I saved the photo, the voice message, and the video into a special folder. My heart was no longer as chaotic as before. Each piece of evidence was beginning to arrange itself like a poorly written manuscript, slowly revealing its true structure after a careful reading. Not even 3 minutes later, the phone vibrated again. Donovan's name appeared. This time, I knew he was calling not just to be angry. In that hurried ringing, I could hear the panic of someone who had just realized his family's play had been watched from the front row. I let the phone ring a few times before answering, not to play hard to get, but to ensure my voice was calm enough. For Donovan, the slightest tremor in my voice was something he would immediately exploit to pressure me. As soon as I answered, his voice hit my ear. What did you say to my mother? Her blood pressure shot up, she got dizzy, and she fainted. Are you satisfied now? I pulled a chair over to the window and sat down. Outside, the Florida sky was beginning to brighten with the dawn. A few vendors were pushing their carts. Their sounds were more melodic than my husband's voice at that moment. I just told her the truth. Your mother doesn't have a broken leg. Shut up. My mother is old. It's normal for her to have aches and pains. As a daughter-in-law, how dare you investigate your mother-in-law down to her floor tiles? Don't you feel any guilt? I sighed softly. Donovan, if your mother is truly sick, take some time off and care for her. Silence on the other end, as if my words had just silenced him. You make it sound so easy. If I take time off, who's going to earn money for this family? Your salary is over $20,000 a month. Will the company go bankrupt if you take one day off to care for your own mother? Don't be sarcastic. A man's business is with big things. You're at home, not earning money, caring for your mother. In-law is your duty. The sentence wasn't new, but this time it didn't hurt me like it used to. It only confirmed one thing. In Donovan's eyes, I was never a wife. I was an unpaid housekeeper with the additional task of bearing a child, who was expected to be grateful for being allowed to live in his house. I said slowly, each word firm. Starting today, I no longer accept that one-sided obligation. I will care for my child. You care for your mother. Devotion isn't a cloak you force onto your wife and then stand outside and applaud. Donovan laughed cynically. Where did you learn all these lines? The internet? Don't think you can talk like some motivational speaker and suddenly become strong. Without me, you wouldn't last a month. I looked at my hands resting on my lap, the fingers that were once rough from washing clothes and dishes, that had typed manuscripts late into the night. Suddenly, I felt sorry for him. Let's assume that's true, Donovan. I'm warning you. Bring Maya home now and delete that useless video. Don't make things harder for yourself. I replied, that video is proof your mother faked an illness to manipulate me. I will keep it. You dare? I dare. Just 2 words, but the silence on the other end was very long. Then Donovan lowered his voice. No longer shouting, but colder. If you want to play hardball, fine. But remember, the apartment is in both our names. As for the money at home, don't expect to touch a dime. You lived off me for years. No court will side with you. I hung up. There was no need to argue further. Some people don't talk to understand each other. They talk only to win. I didn't want to win with words. I needed the truth. I opened the photo folder on my phone. There was a collection of photos I had taken in a hurry before leaving Chicago. That afternoon, while getting Maya's birth certificate from a drawer, I saw Donovan's old laptop still on at his desk. He often used it at home and forgot to turn it off. The screen displayed his email inbox. A bank account alert was open. At first, I was going to close it, but an email subject line caught my eye. Transfer notification successful. Recipient: Lorraine Hayes. Amount: $5,000. I scrolled through a few nearby emails. On the 5th of every month, there was the same transaction. Sometimes the description was for mom, other times mom's fund, another time, land payment. I didn't dare to download or delete anything, just photographed what was on the screen. At the time, I didn't fully understand, just felt a coldness in my stomach. Now, sitting in this hotel room, I enlarged each photo. June 5th, $5,000. July 5th, $5,000. August 5th, also $5,000. I checked all the photos I managed to take. There weren't many, but it was enough to show this wasn't a coincidence. I sent them all to Chloe. Not 10 minutes later, she called. Eleanor, where did you get these photos? I saw them on the laptop at home. The email was open. I just photographed the screen. I didn't log in, didn't download any bank statements. Remember that. This is a lead, not official proof yet. But if this cash flow is recurring, it's very important. When we file, I'll ask the court to order the bank to provide statements for the duration of the marriage. I heard Chloe typing on her computer. You said Donovan transferred $5,000 every month? Yes. If that's been going on for 3 years, that's 36 months. A total of $180,000. I couldn't say a word. The number was like a bucket of ice water poured over my head. $180,000. While I was weighing every ounce of meat, buying leftover vegetables at the market, and hunting for discounts to buy Maya's milk, Donovan was routinely transferring $5,000 a month to his mother. I remembered Maya's pink jacket, its sleeves too short since last winter. I remembered when Maya asked for a new set of crayons, and I told her to just use the old ones because they still had color. I remembered myself standing in front of a makeup counter, holding a $50 lipstick, then putting it back. I used to blame myself for not being good at managing money. It turned out the rice pot in my house was dry, not because I was wasteful, but because someone was secretly taking large portions and bringing them elsewhere. Chloe's voice softened. Eleanor, are you still there? I'm here. If you need to cry, cry. But after that, get back up. Starting today, create a timeline. When did things happen? Who said what? If there's a photo, recording, or witness, note it down clearly. We don't fight with insults. We advance with documents. I laughed bitterly. You talk as if I'm editing a messy manuscript. It's true. Your marriage is a manuscript they've ruined. Now you have to reread it, line by line, to find where they hid the truth. That sentence made me cry. I cried silently because Maya was still asleep. Tears fell onto the phone screen, blurring the number $5,000. But strangely, the more I cried, the more aware I became. It wasn't the cry of a desperate person, but the final cry before rising up. I took a notebook from my bag and started writing. September 2023. Donovan started coming home late, said he had a big project. December 2023. Lorraine bragged about someone selling land on a main road in Naperville. The 5th of every month, bank email notifies of a $5,000 transfer to Lorraine Hayes. Every line felt dry and painful, but I knew that from now on, this would be the anchor that kept me from being dragged back to that house. Around noon, Maya woke up, yawned, and asked, Mommy, what are we eating today? I quickly wiped my tears and smiled at her. We're having pancakes. Then Mommy will take you to the beach. She cheered and hugged my neck. The scent of her hair was a mix of baby shampoo and sunshine. I hugged her tightly and then looked back at my open notebook. I sent a message to Chloe. I don't want revenge. I just want to get back what is rightfully mine and my daughter's. After sending it, my heart felt calm. Outside, the sun was high, the ocean a dazzling blue, and inside me, another door had just opened. It wasn't noisy, but it was very bright. That afternoon in Florida, the sun shone with a golden hue. Maya sat by the hotel window, engrossed in coloring a picture of a starfish in a book I had just bought at a shop near the market. Meanwhile, I sat across from her, staring at the notebook filled with dates and the number $5,000, repeated so many times it made me dizzy. My phone vibrated. A new message from Donovan. No scolding, no barrage of calls, just a photo. I opened it. On a white paper stamped by a court was written clearly, Summons. Plaintiff, Rick Peterson. Defendant, Donovan Hayes. Subject, dispute over promissory note. Amount, $250,000. I immediately sat up straight. Rick was Donovan's uncle on his mother's side, Lorraine's brother. A few years ago, that man used to visit our house often. He was always boasting about how land prices in the suburbs were rising daily. He once slapped Donovan's shoulder while laughing. Listen to your uncle, Don. They're not making any more land. The price just keeps going up. If you have money, buy land, don't keep it in the bank. At that time, I was just in the kitchen washing dishes, overhearing snippets, never allowed to join the conversation. Less than a minute later, Donovan called. This time his voice was hoarse, no longer high-pitched as before. Eleanor, please, just listen to me. I paused for a moment, then answered, Go on. Uncle Rick is suing me. He's demanding $250,000. If I don't pay, he's threatening to have the court seize our apartment. I glanced at Maya. The child was choosing a shade of blue for a seashell, completely unaware that the adults outside were gambling her home over a debt. Where did the $250,000 come from? Donovan was breathless. 3 years ago, Uncle Rick said there was a good opportunity. A plot of land in Naperville. Big profit potential. I didn't want the asset in our names for tax reasons. So Mom told me to sign a promissory note for $250,000 as collateral, acting like my uncle was fronting the money. Every month, I transferred $5,000 to an account in Mom's name so she could pay the installments to him, keeping the whole deal off our books. I closed my eyes. So those emails were explained. And now Uncle Rick says he hasn't received a cent? Silence on the other end. Then Donovan said softly, as if choking, Yeah, he says Mom never paid him. Mom herself is just quiet, says she has a headache, won't explain where the money went. Eleanor, I'm cornered. Can you please use your savings, that $30,000, to help me out? We can borrow more from your parents later. After all, we're still husband and wife. I laughed, but my throat felt bitter. Only now you remember we're husband and wife, Don? Don't be like that. I did this to build a hidden real estate portfolio for our future. It was just a smart financial strategy. Which family? I asked. In the last 3 years, did Maya ever get even 1 carton of milk from that project? Was I ever asked for my opinion before you signed that promissory note? Did our home get any better? Or was it just your mother who routinely received $5,000 every month? Donovan panicked. I thought Mom was really paying him back. I didn't know she was keeping it. But you knew damn well you were hiding it from me. You knew you were giving your wife $1,500 a month while transferring $5,000 to your mother. You knew your daughter was wearing clothes that were too small and your wife had to bargain for vegetables at the market. You knew everything, Don. You just didn't feel guilty. I heard Donovan slam a table. Eleanor, don't push it. A debt incurred during a marriage is a shared responsibility. You can't just abandon me like this. I opened my notebook, looking at the words Chloe had advised me to write. Personal debt, marital debt, purpose of use. Donovan, listen carefully. That debt doesn't have my signature. I didn't know about it, wasn't consulted, and didn't agree to it. The money wasn't used for family needs, not for a child's medical expenses, not for home renovations. It was a debt you signed yourself for a land investment with your uncle on your mother's advice. If this goes to court, I will say the exact same thing. You learn a little law for a few days and now you dare to defy me? I'm learning not to defy you. I'm learning so that I don't have to carry your debt on top of my child's head. Donovan's voice trembled. You want to see me lose the house, my job, everything? Will that make you happy? I looked out the window. The sea was still blue, but my heart was no longer as soft as it had been a few days ago. I said slowly, When you had money, you treated me like a stranger. Now that you have debt, you remember I'm your wife. Donovan, everything has its limits. Donovan was silent. I could hear him swallow. Eleanor, I'm begging you. If Uncle Rick keeps pushing, my mother won't be able to take it. Then go home and ask your mother where the money is. Ask her what $5,000 a month for 3 years has become. Don't ask me. I hung up the phone before my heart could waver. Maya looked up, her eyes clear. Mommy, is Daddy sad again? I went over and sat beside her. Daddy has a problem. But it's a problem that grown-ups have to solve by themselves. So we're not going home? I looked at her for a long time, then nodded. We are going back to Chicago. We're not running anymore, sweetheart. Mommy is going to finish this. That night, I booked a flight back to Chicago. In my suitcase, besides clothes and a few of Maya's beach toys, I packed my notebook, copies of documents, the phone full of voice recordings, and the photos of the bank transfer emails. I didn't know what storm awaited me at home, but this time, I wasn't returning with the trembling hands of a daughter-in-law afraid of being scolded. I was returning with the truth in my hand. The plane landed at O'Hare around 4 p.m. Outside the window, Chicago was submerged in a gray rain. Water droplets streamed down the glass like a wet curtain covering the sky. Maya hugged her dolphin plushie and asked, Mommy, are we going back to the old house? I straightened her light jacket. No, sweetie, we're in Chicago, but we're not going back to the old house just yet. Then where are we staying? In a hotel for a little while, until Mommy finds us a new home. Maya looked down, her finger stroking the dolphin's ear. Does Daddy know? I paused for a moment. Daddy knows we're back, but no one is allowed to take you away if you don't want to go. Saying it, I seemed to be reassuring Maya, but I was also reassuring myself. The arrivals area was chaotic. The sound of flight announcements, rolling suitcases, and crying children blended into one. I pulled the suitcase with one hand and held Maya's hand tightly with the other. A few steps toward the taxi line, a figure suddenly emerged from behind a pillar. Donovan. If I hadn't looked closely, I almost wouldn't have recognized him. A few days ago, he was still a man with a crisp shirt and neat hair. Now he stood before me with sunken eyes, a thin beard, and a wrinkled shirt wet at the shoulders. He grabbed the handle of my suitcase. We're going home. Maya flinched and hid behind me. I gripped my daughter's hand tighter, my voice low. Let go of the suitcase. You still dare to order me around? Donovan growled. You take our child away for days. Turn the house upside down. Now that you're back, you're coming with me. We'll sort this out. We will. But not your way. By cornering us at the airport. Donovan looked at Maya, trying to soften his voice. Maya, come here with Daddy. Daddy will take you home. Mommy is angry right now, so she's being strange. Maya clutched my shirt, her eyes turning red. I want to be with Mommy. Donovan's face hardened. He bent down, about to grab Maya's hand. I immediately stepped in front of her. Don't touch my daughter. Eleanor, don't think I won't do something. You're unemployed, you have no home, no steady income. In court, what can you possibly use to raise a child? Maya is a Hayes, a grandchild in my family. You won't have an easy time trying to take her. I heard a few people around us start to whisper. An airport security officer glanced in our direction. I didn't want to make a scene in front of Maya, but I also couldn't let Donovan use the crowd to force me to submit. I said loudly enough for those nearby to hear, let go of the suitcase. If you keep forcing this, I will call security. Donovan paused for a moment, then laughed cynically. Go ahead. Let everyone see what kind of woman abandons her mother-in-law with a broken leg to go on a beach vacation. I pulled out my phone, opening the voice recording I had saved. Donovan's voice echoed clearly in the middle of the busy airport. 3 years ago, Uncle Rick said there was a good opportunity, a plot of land in Naperville. Mom told me to sign a promissory note for $250,000 as collateral. Every month, I transferred $5,000 to Mom so she could pay the installments to him. Donovan's face changed completely. He let go of the suitcase as if he'd been electrocuted. Turn it off. I didn't. I let it play for a few more seconds. Long enough for him to hear his own trembling voice on the phone. Long enough to remind him that the debt was no longer a secret. Then I pressed stop. Did you hear that? If you keep blocking me, keep threatening to take my child, keep slandering me, I will send this recording to my lawyer, Chloe, and if necessary, it will also end up in Uncle Rick's hands. Do you think your uncle will stay quiet? Donovan turned pale. His arrogant expression vanished. He looked around, realizing several pairs of eyes were on him, then lowered his voice. Eleanor, I just want to take Maya home. Don't make this a bigger problem. I'm not the one who made it bigger. You and your mother let it rot from the inside. I'm just opening a window to let some light in. Don't be so dramatic. Dramatic? Am I being dramatic for not letting you drag my child through an airport? Or for not giving you my savings to patch up a debt you made secretly behind my back? Donovan was silent. He looked at Maya with a soft voice. Maya, Daddy, Daddy. Maya was so scared, she buried her face in my shirt. That small gesture was enough to hit Donovan hard. Perhaps for the first time, he saw his daughter not running toward him. I pulled the suitcase and Maya back a step. Go home. From now on, if you want to see Maya, send a message first. Meet in a public place. Be on time. Don't force her, don't threaten, and don't badmouth her mother in front of her. If you can do that, you are still Maya's father. If not, I will let the law set boundaries for us. An airport security officer approached. Ma'am, do you need assistance? I nodded. Yes, sir. Please help me get a taxi. This man is blocking our way. Donovan stepped back, his face a mask of anger and shame, but he didn't dare to move forward again. The man who was used to shouting within the closed doors of his home became so small in a crowd. I lifted Maya into the taxi. The child hugged my neck, her body still trembling. Mommy, Daddy isn't going to catch us, right? I kissed her hair. No, sweetie. Mommy is here. The taxi started to move. Through the window, blurred by the rain, I saw Donovan still standing there, his shoulders slumped. His wrinkled white shirt looked pathetic among the bustling crowd. For a moment, I felt pity for him. But pity was not a reason to go back. That night, I took Maya to a small hotel in the South Loop. The room was cramped, with just one bed, a wooden desk, and a window overlooking a wet street. But when the door was locked, I felt more at ease than I had on any night in the old apartment. Maya sat on the bed, hugging a pillow. Mommy, if I miss Daddy, is it okay to say so? I sat beside her. Of course it is. Daddy is still your dad. You're allowed to miss him, to love him, to be sad. But you are not to blame for the grown-ups' problems. Maya nodded and then snuggled into my arms. That night, the Chicago rain fell steadily outside the glass window. I placed my phone, notebook, and all the documents on the desk. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had been kicked out of my home. I just felt that I had brought my daughter out of a place that was no longer worthy of being called home. The next morning, Chicago was still being drenched by rain. From the hotel window, I watched a line of motorcyclists in colorful raincoats jostling their way to work. Maya was still asleep, one hand clutching her dolphin plushie, the other gripping my shirt as if afraid I would disappear. I sat at the small wooden desk and opened my notebook again. The numbers lay there, colder than the weather outside. $5,000 every month, 36 months, $180,000. I was just about to send a message to Chloe when my phone rang with an unknown number. I stared at it for a moment. My gut already knew who was on the other end. I answered, turned on the voice recorder, and said nothing. Lorraine's sharp voice immediately came through, no longer weak like when she was faking her illness. Eleanor, where are you hiding? What kind of wife are you? Your husband is in trouble and you just wash your hands of it. I'm telling you, bring your savings book here right now. Donovan is being hounded by his uncle for a debt, and you're enjoying yourself in a hotel. I moved my chair away from the bed, afraid of waking Maya. You have the wrong number. My savings are from my own night work, not your money, and not for patching up a debt Donovan made without my knowledge. Lorraine laughed cynically. How much could you possibly earn? A husband and wife are supposed to bear hardships together. In my day, if a husband had a debt, his wife would sell her earrings to help. You see a small wave, and you jump off the ship. I looked at my hands. The nails were short, the skin around my thumbs dry and chapped from years of washing dishes. I replied, any ship needs to be rowed together. On your family's ship, I was tied up in the cargo hold while you and Donovan were on deck dividing up the money. As soon as the ship started leaking, you told me to start bailing water. There was a moment of silence on the other end, then she shrieked. You talk to your mother-in-law like that? I am Donovan's mother. The money he gave me was put into a trust to protect his hard-earned assets. I was holding it so you wouldn't squander it. A daughter-in-law has no right to interfere. So you admit Donovan transferred $5,000 to you every month? Lorraine stopped short. I could hear her breathing quicken. I didn't say that. He was being filial, sending a little money for my medicines. What's wrong with that? A little money for medicine that totaled $180,000 over 3 years? Lorraine? I said her full name, slowly and clearly. The other end fell completely silent. That silence was more damning than any of her curses. I continued. Your monthly pension is only about $1,000. In Chicago, you don't pay rent, and you eat from the $1,500 Donovan gave for the household. So where did you get the money to buy 2 plots of land on a main road in Naperville in the last 3 years? I heard something fall like a glass being knocked over. You? What are you talking about? What land? Don't pretend you don't remember, Lorraine. One plot near the Riverwalk was bought at the end of 2024 for about $100,000. Another one near the Forest Preserve was bought in mid-2025 for about $120,000. Both are in the name of Lorraine Hayes. That's your name, isn't it? That information was actually just preliminary, something Chloe had gathered from public records and her contacts in the suburbs, but it was enough to leave Lorraine with no way out. Her voice lowered, not out of softness, but out of fear. Who gave you the right to investigate my assets? What kind of daughter-in-law are you? Aren't you afraid of sin? God punishes the greedy, not those who fight for their child's future. I am not investigating your assets. I am asking about my and my husband's marital assets that were secretly transferred over 3 years. My child's money is my money, right? Donovan's income during the marriage is marital property, unless there was a prenuptial agreement. Donovan intentionally transferred large sums of money without his wife's knowledge, while his wife and child lived in hardship. If it is proven that you used that money to buy land, my lawyer will ask the court to temporarily seize both plots. Lorraine gasped, and then suddenly burst into tears. Eleanor, I'm an old woman. I was just saving it for you all. I was afraid you'd be wasteful and Donovan would have nothing. As a parent, I have to think ahead. I closed my eyes. The same mouth. When she needed something, she called me dear. When cornered, she called me child. She changed masks faster than she changed clothes. Saving for whom? But the deeds are in your name. Saving for whom, when Donovan is being sued for a $250,000 debt by Uncle Rick? Why didn't you sell the land to help your own son? Her crying grew louder. Uncle Rick tricked me. I'm a victim too. I don't deny that possibility. But you received money from Donovan? That's a fact. You bought the land? That's a fact. You faked a broken leg? That's a fact. Those facts are enough to wake me up. Lorraine's voice suddenly turned sour. So you want to destroy your husband's entire family? You want to see your mother-in-law die, your husband in jail, and your child branded as having a broken family? I looked at the sleeping Maya. She moved slightly, her eyelashes fluttering. I lowered my voice, but every word was firm. I'm not destroying anyone. Your greed is what's destroying you. Pride is what's destroying Donovan. The habit of treating a daughter-in-law as an outsider is what's destroying you. I just won't stand by and let myself and my child be dragged down with you. I heard heavy breathing and Donovan's voice in the distance. Mom, give me the phone. Lorraine screamed, No! She wants to take my land! My land! Then her screaming choked off. The phone dropped, and the scene on the other end descended into chaos. I heard Donovan yelling, the sound of sandals running, and someone banging on a door. Mom! Mom, what's wrong? Open your eyes, Mom. A female neighbor's voice could be heard. Oh my God, Lorraine fainted. Call an ambulance. I sat frozen, my finger still on the record button. In that moment, I felt no satisfaction. I only felt cold. It turned out a family could be destroyed not by an outsider, but by the bricks of greed they had built themselves. I ended the call and saved the recording. Outside, the rain was still falling. I turned, straightened Maya's blanket, and touched her warm cheek. I promised myself, no matter how many court documents, insults, and tears lay ahead, I had to walk to the end. Not to defeat Lorraine or get revenge on Donovan, but so that my daughter would one day understand that her mother had been pushed to the edge of a cliff, but she didn't jump. 3 days after the phone call that made Lorraine faint, I met Donovan again at Chloe's law office. The office was on the 4th floor of an old building in the West Loop. The stairs were narrow, the wall paint slightly peeling, but the workspace was so tidy it made one sit up straight instinctively. Chloe made me a cup of warm tea. Just relax. Today, we're not fighting. We're working. I nodded. The word working sounded stiff, but for me, it was like a life raft. If we had met at home, Donovan would have slammed the table, Lorraine would have cried, and everything would have become chaotic. Here, in front of a lawyer, every word had to be based on evidence. 10 minutes later, Donovan walked in. He looked incredibly thin. His blue shirt was wrinkled, his eyes sunken from lack of sleep. Seeing me, he stopped for a moment, then pulled out a chair and sat across from me. Eleanor, he said softly, I know I was wrong, but Mom is in the hospital. Uncle Rick keeps demanding the money. Let's not drag this out, okay? Let's drop the lawsuit. Come home. We'll talk it out. I looked at him. The man who had once overturned a dining table was now speaking so gently, but there are wounds that cannot be healed by words alone. Go home to which house, Donovan? The house where my cooking was always criticized? The house where my child cried in fear watching her parents fight? Or the house where your mother faked a broken leg to force me to come home? Donovan looked down, his hands clasped together. Mom is old. Even if she was wrong, it's because she loves me. Chloe looked up. Mr. Hayes, today we are discussing divorce, child custody, and marital assets. Please refrain from using emotion. Donovan pursed his lips, looking annoyed but not daring to argue. I took out my notes. For 10 years, I never demanded you be rich. I just needed to be valued. But you gave me $1,500 a month to manage everything while you routinely transferred $5,000 to your mother. You said I was a freeloader and useless. Do you remember our 10th anniversary? You overturned the table, cutting my foot and making Maya cry. Donovan winced. I was drunk that night. Being drunk doesn't turn you into someone else. It just makes you say what you're usually thinking but still hiding. The room fell silent. Chloe opened a folder and pushed it towards Donovan. Mr. Hayes, Eleanor's proposal is very clear. First, an amicable divorce. Second, Eleanor gets full custody of Maya. Third, you are required to provide child support each month according to your ability. Fourth, you commit to returning the portion of marital assets you transferred to Lorraine Hayes, provisionally calculated at $90,000. The final figure will be based on bank records. Donovan half stood. $90,000? Are you trying to kill me? I parked that money in my mother's name as a tax shelter, not for gambling, Chloe replied calmly. You transferred large sums of money during the marriage without your wife's consent, while your wife and child lived in hardship. If that money was used to purchase assets in Lorraine Hayes' name, the court has grounds to consider it a fraudulent transfer of marital property. Donovan turned to me, his eyes red. You'd do this to me? I did all this so our family could have extra money. What man doesn't want to try and get ahead? I smiled sadly. Your effort was to hide a promissory note from your wife, transfer money to your mother, and when trouble came, you told me to use my savings to save you. Donovan, a man who is truly trying, doesn't let his wife and child live on scraps. He slammed the table. Fine, if you want to get technical, I can too. I'll take Maya. You just got a job, you don't have a house, your income isn't stable. I am her father, I have rights. My heart pounded, but I didn't back down. I pulled out another stack of papers. This is a job offer from a major publishing house. These are my freelance contracts from the last 3 years. This is proof that I have rented a small apartment in a good school district for Maya. I may not be rich yet, but I have a clear plan to support my child. What plan do you have besides using Maya to threaten me? Donovan stared at the papers, his face hardening. Maybe he never expected the wife he always called a freeloader had prepared all of this. Chloe continued. Mr. Hayes, there is one more issue. Your company is currently auditing a $50,000 fund that was irregularly withdrawn from a communications project budget last month. I'm not concluding anything, but I suggest you think carefully. The longer this dispute goes on, the more documents will be brought to light. Donovan's face went pale. He looked at Chloe, then at me. Eleanor, did you have someone investigate me? I shook my head. No, you left your own tracks. A person who walks a straight path doesn't need to worry about dirty shoes. He slumped back into his chair. In that moment, I no longer saw him as the husband I feared, but as a man cornered by his own greed and pride. Chloe placed a pen on the table. You have the right not to sign today. If so, we will file a contested suit, asking the court to verify all assets, cash flows, personal debts, and the child's living conditions on both sides. But if you sign, everything will proceed amicably. It will be clearer for Maya. Donovan held the pen, then put it down again. Sweat beaded on his temples. He looked at me. Eleanor, is it really over? Yes, my throat tightened. After all, 10 years was not a short time. But I remembered Maya, remembered the broken dining table, remembered Lorraine calling me like a servant. I replied, it was over the night you overturned that table. Today is just making it official on paper. Donovan looked down for a long time, then signed. The stroke of his pen was shaky, no longer as firm as the signature on the contracts he used to show off. When he put the pen down, I didn't feel victorious. I just felt like a heavy door had just closed behind me. Behind that door were 10 years of my youth. There was love, patience, humiliation, and cold dinners. I stood up and accepted the agreement from Chloe. Donovan sat still, his eyes fixed on the table. Walking out of the office, the rain had stopped. The wet streets reflected the remaining sunlight. I took a deep breath. The Chicago air was still thick with the smell of pollution, but to me, it felt much lighter. The hearing was held on a morning in late October. The Chicago sky was clear after several days of rain, but the courthouse grounds were still damp. I arrived early, wearing a neat white shirt. In my bag were copies of Maya's birth certificate and the notes Chloe had prepared. Chloe was waiting on the steps. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded. Nervous, but ready. Nervous is normal. Just tell the truth later. I looked at the courtroom door. For 10 years as a daughter-in-law, I was used to standing in the kitchen, behind everyone else. Today, for the first time, I was entering a place where my voice would be heard and recorded. Uncle Rick arrived a few minutes later. He was wearing a plaid shirt, his hair slicked back. Seeing me, he sneered. The daughter-in-law decided to show up. "This is men's business. What do women know?" Before I could answer, Chloe said gently, "Eleanor Vance is the wife of the defendant during the period this debt was incurred, and is an interested party regarding marital assets. Her presence is in accordance with procedure." Uncle Rick snorted. A snort I knew all too well. It was exactly like Lorraine's snort whenever I sat down to eat before being invited. Donovan came in last. He was extremely thin, his eyes red. Lorraine was pushed in a wheelchair by a relative. After suffering a minor stroke, her mouth was slightly crooked, but her eyes were still sharp, staring at me as if she wanted to destroy me. The difference was, today she could no longer stand with her hands on her hips. When the hearing began, Uncle Rick explained smoothly. He said that 3 years ago, Donovan borrowed $250,000 for a business deal with a clear promissory note. Now it was due, and it hadn't been paid. Donovan stood up, his voice hoarse. "Your Honor, the signature is indeed mine, but I did not handle the money directly. Uncle Rick offered the land investment and told me to sign as collateral. My mother told me to transfer $5,000 every month to be paid to my uncle." Uncle Rick slammed the table. "You're slandering your uncle. I never received a single penny from your mother." Lorraine began to sob dramatically. "Oh God, our family is so unlucky. Siblings suing each other." I heard that and felt sick. She always cried at the right moment to make people forget her role. Then it was my turn. I stood up. My knees trembled slightly, but my voice was clearer than I expected. "Your Honor, I was not aware of, did not sign, and did not consent to this $250,000 loan. The money was not used for our household needs. For those 3 years, my husband only gave me $1,500 a month for all living expenses. Therefore, I object to this debt being considered a marital debt." Uncle Rick laughed cynically. "How convenient. Your husband borrows and you enjoy it, right? Women these days are so clever. When there's money, you're a wife. When there's debt, you're a stranger." I looked him straight in the eye. "Enjoy what, sir?" For those 3 years, I had to buy leftover vegetables at the market. My daughter wore clothes that were too small. If that's what you call enjoying, then perhaps suffering can also disguise itself as happiness. The courtroom was silent for a moment. Chloe opened her bag and took out a USB drive. "Your Honor, we request permission to submit evidence in the form of a video recording from a witness, Mrs. Brenda Gable, a neighbor on the same floor as Mrs. Vance's family. This video records a conversation between Mr. Peterson and Mrs. Hayes regarding the $5,000 monthly cash flow, the 2 plots of land in Naperville, and the $250,000 promissory note." Uncle Rick's face changed drastically. Lorraine stopped crying. The video played. The image was a bit shaky, but the sound was clear enough. In the video, Uncle Rick stood in the apartment hallway, his voice raised. "Lorraine, don't be greedy. You've already used the money Donovan transferred for the last 3 years to buy land. Now I'm the one on the hook. You have to help me out with at least $100,000. That promissory note was just a formality back then." Lorraine's voice replied, "Just use that note to scare that girl Eleanor, get her to use her savings. This land is in my name, I won't sell it." The video stopped. Uncle Rick opened his mouth, then closed it again. Donovan sat frozen, staring at his mother as if she were a stranger. Lorraine trembled, her lips twitching, tears streaming down her face. But this time, no one felt any pity. The judge conferred for a moment, then announced, "Seeing indications of fraudulent activity related to the creation of the promissory note and assets derived from said cash flow, the court has decided to postpone the proceedings and refer the related evidence to the police for further investigation." Chloe stood up again. "In the ongoing divorce case, We are also filing a request for a temporary seizure of the 2 plots of land in Lorraine Hayes' name in Naperville to prevent the transfer of assets until there is a verification of the source of funds. Lorraine suddenly shrieked, "My land! You want to take my land?" I turned to look at her. The woman who had ordered me to cook, who had accused me of being wasteful, who had threatened to take my child, now sat in a wheelchair, trembling, clutching the only thing she considered precious. I didn't answer her. Arguing with her now was pointless. Donovan buried his head in his hands. Uncle Rick was sweating profusely. Walking out of the courtroom, Chloe walked beside me. "You did well." I looked at the bright courthouse grounds. I didn't feel relieved, nor did I feel happy. There was just a strange calm in my heart. Justice doesn't arrive like a thunderbolt. It comes through stacks of paper, waiting, and asking the right questions. But once it arrives, those who are used to living in darkness can no longer pretend to be innocent. Leaving the courthouse that day, I didn't return to the old apartment. My new rental house was on a quiet street in a different neighborhood. The house was simple, but when I locked the door, it felt more peaceful than any palace. The first night in the new house, Maya asked, "Mommy, is our house smaller? Are we poor now?" I pulled her onto my lap. "Yes, our house is smaller, but being poor isn't scary, sweetheart. What's scary is living in a big house where you hear people fighting every day." Maya tilted her head. "So a small house where mommy doesn't cry is better?" I hugged her. "Much better." 2 days later, I started my probationary period at a major publishing house. My boss, a woman named Sarah Jenkins, was firm. "Here, no one gets special treatment because of their personal situation. If you can do the work, you stay. If you can't, I won't keep you out of pity." I nodded. "I understand. I'm just asking for a chance." After years of being called a freeloader, hearing someone speak so directly was actually a relief. At the office, there was a colleague named Jessica. She was stylish and a smooth talker. She smiled warmly. "Welcome, Eleanor." "Wow, back to work after so long, huh?" "A bit of a late start, but that's okay." Her words were polite, but a bit of a late start was emphasized subtly. I smiled back. Yes, better late than never. My first few days were a blur of learning. New software, new procedures. It was exhausting, but it was a clean exhaustion, with no humiliation attached. Brenda called occasionally. "Honey, are you and Maya doing okay?" "We're fine, Brenda. I made some beef jerky. Swing by and pick some up for Maya later." I held the phone, my eyes welling up. Sometimes people can't do big things, but a jar of jerky at the right time is enough to warm the heart. Donovan sent a message asking to see Maya. I thought for a long time, then replied, "You can see Maya on Sunday at the cafe near the park. Do not come to the house. Do not take her anywhere else. Do not badmouth her mother. If you agree, I will bring her." Donovan replied with a single word. Agreed. For the first time, the rules of the game were no longer set by him alone. On Friday afternoon, Jessica placed a thick manuscript on my desk. "Eleanor, could you look over this manuscript this weekend? I have an event. I'm afraid I won't have time. Just a quick glance." I looked at the nearly 400-page manuscript. This was not a quick glance. This was a test wrapped in a smile. I looked at her. "Okay, I'll do it. But on Monday, I will clearly note which parts I revised and which were your responsibility." The smile on Jessica's lips became a little stiff. Of course. I put the manuscript in my bag. My new life wasn't sprinkled with flowers. It just placed one task after another in front of me, forcing me to prove that I was worthy. Saturday night, I was working on Jessica's manuscript when Maya complained of feeling cold. I touched her forehead. It was burning up, 103.3 degrees. I immediately panicked, threw all the essentials into a bag, and rushed her to the hospital. Maya was diagnosed with acute tonsillitis and had to be admitted overnight. Seeing the IV needle in her small hand, my heart ached. After Maya fell asleep, I pulled up a chair, sat beside her, opened my laptop, and continued to work. In the middle of the night, the room door opened. Donovan stood there, holding a bag of fruit and milk. His face looked exhausted. I heard from her teacher. "Maya's in the hospital." "What happened?" I closed the laptop slightly. "Tonsillitis." He approached, about to touch Maya's forehead. I gently stopped him. "She just fell asleep. Let's not startle her." His hand stopped in midair, then dropped. I bought some fruit. "Have you eaten?" If that question had come a few years earlier, it might have made me cry. But now it felt like being given a raincoat after the storm has passed. Helpful, but it couldn't fix anything. Not yet. But I can manage. Donovan saw the laptop and my stack of papers. The kid is sick, and you're still working? If I don't work, what will I submit on Monday? I'm on probation. No one is going to pay me for crying. He looked down. Let me stay. You go home and rest. I looked at him for a long time. Do you remember when Maya was 3? I called you 12 times. You texted back, in a meeting with a client, take her to the hospital yourself. That night, I carried her alone. I only had $50 in my wallet. Do you remember? Donovan's face went pale. Back then I was careless. It wasn't once. It was for years. Now you want to change. I'm not stopping you from being a father, but don't come here acting as if a bag of fruit can erase the past. Donovan stood silently. For the first time, he didn't argue. He just looked at Maya with red-rimmed eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. Some apologies can be heard but not necessarily accepted. I went back to work. Donovan sat on the edge of the bed for almost an hour. Just before midnight, I said, you should go home. When Maya wakes up, I'll tell her you came. That night, I barely slept. Every few pages, I checked Maya's temperature. Just before dawn, I finished the last page, saved the file, and sent an email to Sarah at 5:47 a.m. Subject: manuscript revision complete. The moment I hit send, I slumped down beside the bed. Maya woke up. Her temperature had dropped. Mommy, are you crying? I only then realized tears were falling. No, sweetie. Mommy's happy. You're feeling better, she whispered. Mommy needs to rest too. I smiled through my tears. Outside, a new day had begun. Monday morning, I arrived at the office on time. Jessica glanced at the dark circles under my eyes and smiled faintly. At 9 a.m., Sarah came in for a meeting. She was holding the manuscript I had worked on. This manuscript. Who was the last one to revise it? Jessica glanced at me, probably expecting me to be reprimanded. I stood up. I was, Sarah. Sarah looked at me. How long did it take you? From Saturday night to Sunday morning. My daughter was in the hospital, so I finished it there. Sarah flipped through a few pages. I've read your work. It's clean, the flow is good. You fixed the fatal logic flaws from the initial draft. Good job. I was silent for a moment. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah turned to Jessica. Jessica, your raw manuscript had a lot of problems. This is not a professional way to work. And dumping work on someone else at the last minute, hoping they'll fail, is not a good attitude. Jessica's face turned beet red. Sarah placed a folder in front of me. Eleanor, this is your employment contract. Base salary is $75,000. Bonuses based on projects. Starting with the next project, you will be responsible for your own title. If your performance is stable over the next 6 months, we'll talk again. I stared at the contract, my eyes blurring. $75,000 wasn't an extraordinary amount. But for me, it was proof that I still could. That I wasn't a used item thrown into a corner of the kitchen. I signed it. Eleanor Vance. The stroke of my name felt firm. After the meeting, Jessica approached me. Eleanor, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't know how sincere her apology was, but I accepted it. Life was too short to be filled with grudges. 6 months later, at a quarterly meeting, Sarah announced, starting next month, Eleanor will be leading the editorial team for the family and lifestyle line. I was stunned. Jessica, sitting next to me, was the first to applaud, followed by the rest of the room. The sound of that applause was more melodious to my ears than any praise. I remembered my old kitchen, remembered Donovan's voice calling me useless. I remembered Lorraine saying I was just wasting food. It turned out that cruel words won't kill you if you don't make them your identity. That afternoon, when I picked up Maya, she showed off a star sticker in her book. I knelt and said, Mommy got a star today too. Maya's eyes widened. Does your office have teachers too? I laughed. It does. It's called life. The teacher is strict but fair. Maya didn't fully understand, but she hugged me. Mommy is great. I hugged her in the middle of the bright schoolyard. No, I wasn't great. I was just a woman who had fallen, been hurt, and then tried to get back up, little by little. But for Maya, that was probably enough to make her believe that her mother no longer had to bow her head. Almost a year after that day in court, Chloe called. Eleanor, there's a verdict. I stopped working. What's the outcome? Uncle Rick was sentenced to prison for fraud. It's not a long sentence because some of the losses were repaid, but he's still doing time. I closed my eyes. The man who had sneered at me was now entangled in his own game. What about Lorraine? She wasn't heavily punished due to her age and health. But in your divorce case, the court ruled that the money Donovan transferred was marital property that was illegally diverted. You're getting back $90,000. I was silent for a long time. $90,000. That number wasn't just money. It was proof that I wasn't wasteful, that I wasn't wrong. I had just been deceived. Chloe continued. The rest of the money from the land sale was used by Donovan to cover up the embezzlement case at his office. He wasn't jailed, but he was given probation, fired, and his name is tarnished. I hear he's now working in a logistics warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Lorraine lives with him in a small rental. I leaned against the wall. Am I a bad person, Chloe? No. You just didn't let them keep being bad to you. That afternoon, a bank notification came in. I looked at the number on the screen, didn't shout, didn't call anyone. I just asked for permission to leave work early, went to the bank, and opened a special savings account for Maya. I had learned, a woman can love, she can sacrifice, but she must always have an escape route for herself. That night, I cooked Maya's favorite meal. She ate with gusto. Mommy, is there good news today? Why do you ask? Your cooking tastes even better than usual. I laughed. Yes. Today, Mommy got back something that should have been ours. Maya thought for a moment, then pushed the smallest piece of chicken from her plate onto my bowl. Then Mommy has to eat too. Justice means Mommy gets a yummy part too. I held back tears. A small child doesn't need to study law. She just knows that her mother also deserves to be happy. The night before Maya's 7th birthday, Donovan sent a message. I know I have no right, but tomorrow is Maya's birthday. May I stop by to give her a gift? I'll just stand outside. I read the message, no longer feeling angry. I replied, You can come at 6 p.m. and see Maya inside the house. Don't talk about adult matters in front of her. If you can, please come. Donovan replied, I can. At exactly 6 o'clock, there was a knock on the door. Soft and hesitant. I opened it. Donovan stood there wearing a faded work jacket. In his hand was a gift wrapped clumsily. The man who used to enter the house throwing his keys now stood awkwardly at the door. Come in. Maya is waiting to blow out the candles. He entered very carefully, as if afraid to dirty the floor. Maya ran to greet him, shyly. Happy birthday, sweetie. Sorry, Daddy could only come now. The gift was a box of sunflower hair clips and a thin storybook. Not expensive, but Maya loved it. While Maya was busy coloring, Donovan turned to me, his voice hoarse. Thank you, Eleanor. I'm letting you see your daughter, not giving you any other hope. He nodded. I know, but I wanted to say, I was wrong. I thought having money meant having power. Now I work in a warehouse, go home, and heat up canned soup for my mother. It's in moments like these that I realize what I threw away. I was silent. The memories no longer hurt, but they were enough to remind me not to go back. Donovan, I said, you can learn to be a good father to Maya, but the chance to be my husband is gone. His eyes welled up. I understand. After he left, I took Maya for a walk in the park near our house. The night air was cool. Maya chattered about wanting to be a painter and draw a house with big windows for me. I held her hand. My heart was at peace, as if I had just put down a very heavy burden. The law of life had called everyone's name. Uncle Rick, Lorraine, Donovan. They had all paid the price for their actions. And me? I didn't defeat anyone. I just managed to bring myself and my daughter out of the house that had once made us wither. For me, that was more than enough.